Hi, I'm Cherie Soria from Living Light, and today I'm going to share with you my favorite recipe for hummus. It's spicy red bell pepper chipotle hummus, and it's my favorite for two reasons. One is it has big, bold flavors. I'm talking about party in your mouth flavors. And it contains no cooked chickpeas. Like a lot of people, I have a hard time digesting chickpeas. Raw sprouted chickpeas are even harder for me to digest than cooked chickpeas. But cooked or raw, they take a toll on my digestion. Honestly, I prefer the flavor and texture of my chickpea-free version anyway. Instead of chickpeas, I'm using red bell pepper and zucchini. As I demonstrate the recipe, I'll also be talking about how we can build the big, bold flavors I talked about. It's important to know what each ingredient represents. So if the recipe needs adjusting to suit your taste, you know what flavor you're looking for and how to achieve it. I know you're going to love my red bell pepper hummus, and here we go. We're going to begin by adding the chopped and peeled red bell peppers. Now only use 1 cup. Even if you have more, you don't need more than 1 cup. In fact, there's so much water in this that it's going to make your hummus too thin if you add extra. You'll also need 1 cup of the peeled and chopped zucchini. Again, it's very high in moisture, so you don't want to add more than that 1 cup. Now, both of those ingredients represent sweet flavors. Remember, there are 4 flavors plus pungent ingredients that we're going to be adding to this mixture, and most of the recipes that really require big, bold flavors. So we want sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and pungent. And pungent are, garlic and onions and chili and those real spicy, dramatic flavors. So here we have 2 ingredients that both represent sweet flavors. Not overly sweet, but still they're not sour, bitter, or salty. They're definitely on the sweet side. So now that we have these sweet ingredients, let's start adding, well, first let's add 1 more sweet ingredient. This is your paprika, and this, because it's really not much more than just dehydrated bell pepper, it's also on the sweet side. Now we can start adding the opposite of sweet and some of the other flavors. The opposite of sweet is sour. So we're going to add some lemon juice. And my lemons were medium sour, so I'm adding the full amount, which was 3 tablespoons. So we have sweet and sour. Now let's add our salty ingredient. This is the Himalayan crystal salt. And we're going to add some bitter flavors here. This is cumin, and cumin, allspices and bitter herbs are all bitter. So we're going to add a bitter spice here. And another ingredient that's also bitter, even though it's paprika, it's smoked paprika, and anything smoked is actually bitter. So we're going to add some smoked paprika, and what that's going to do is that's going to give our red bell pepper hummus a kind of smoky, roasted red bell pepper flavor. True, it's not raw, but it's not very much, and it's really going to add a whole nother flavor profile to this wonderful hummus. So now we have sweet, we have salty, we have sour, we have bitter, and we're going to start adding some pungent flavors. We're going to add some garlic. And one thing I want to make you aware of is that garlic comes in all sizes, so you need to be really careful. This is a huge clove of garlic. I would count this as 2 cloves. So we're going to put that one in there. Here's one that's just a little bit smaller. It's still, on the large side. I think that those 2 are plenty. We don't need 3 full cloves of garlic when they're that large. Now, garlic is very pungent, so you have to be cautious about not using too much. Once it goes in, it's pretty hard to cover that up without adding a lot of sweetness or fat. And that's what really will mellow out the flavors of something that's too pungent. It's something that's a little bit on the sour side or on the sweet side or fat. Any of those will temper it a little bit. Now we're going to add 1 more pungent ingredient, and this is the one that really creates the party in your mouth. This is chipotle powder. And you can actually take dehydrated chipotle peppers if you can't find the powder and just powder it up yourself, but leave out the seeds because they are super hot. Unless you really like heat, then go for it. All right, so now we have sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and pungent flavors in here. And once we blend it and we add our fat ingredient, then we can taste it and see if we have the right flavor balance. But until we add our fat, we won't know that. I want to show you, I want you to be aware as this starts to move around, how what looks like solid becomes liquid, because these vegetables are very high in water content. I'm going to start my blender on very low because I don't want all of these vegetables and spices to be jumping up and down and sticking to the side of my blender. And I also don't want it to end up inside the cap. So this is a personal challenge. Let's see if we can do it. We start it all the way on low. And just let it do its thing for just a few seconds before we start turning it up. As it gets thicker, then we can turn it up. Mission accomplished. Okay, now we have a nice mixture. See how liquid that is? Vegetables are so high in water content. So now what we're going to do is add one of our two last ingredients, and this one is going to really help to give it some body, make it thicker, and also add to the overall life force of our product here. These are soaked sesame seeds, and you only need to soak them for a couple of hours in order to develop the life force that comes when you germinate any seed. So let's add those, and we want to keep them right down in the bottom and not have them stick to the sides. Once again, we'll get all the last little bits out there. Okay, and again we're going to start this on low, and as it gets thicker then we can turn it up. Now what we're going to be looking for in terms of texture here is a very smooth sheen. So we're going to have to let it go for at least 2 minutes in order to get that smooth sheen. We don't want any kind of a gritty mouthfeel here. We want it nice and smooth. Okay, so turning it on slowly first and turning it up little by little. Okay, now this should be nice and smooth with no grit at all, and what we're looking for is a smooth sheen across the top, so the light is reflecting off of the top. And definitely we have that. Beautiful, shiny and smooth. That's just what I'm looking for. So now we're going to add our final ingredient, and this is another sesame seed product, but it is made into a butter. So it is tahini, and this of course is a raw and organic tahini. Everything we use here at Living Light is organic. We're going to add that, and we don't really need to blend that for very long. It's just going to be a quick mix together. Always starting on low. And there we've got it. So, of course I'm going to taste it. I wouldn't serve you anything without tasting it first. And I mentioned before that I didn't want to taste it before I added our fat component. And the reason for that is whenever you add fat to something that has all of those wonderful, strong, dramatic flavors, the pungent ingredients that we added, the fat subdues those flavors. So you really don't know what it's going to taste like until you add your fat. So let's see what we've got now. Oh my gosh. You're going to really like this. That's definitely a party in the mouth. Speaking of parties, let's do this. Let's make a party platter. I'm just going to go ahead and pour my hummus right into here and serve it to my pals. That's you today. That's really yummy. Now, if I were to refrigerate this overnight, it would actually get quite a bit thicker. And I could actually put it into a piping bag and pipe little rosettes on top of my cucumbers and serve it that way. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit more paprika over the top, just to give it a little bit more color. I think that looks pretty. And there we have it. This is our red bell pepper zucchini hummus. I know that you're going to love it, and so will your friends and family. And I hope you've learned some good tips about flavor balancing, because that's what I'm all about. I really want to teach you how to be able to create big, bold flavors all on your own. For more kitchen tips and tricks, recipes and videos, go to rawfoodchef.com or check out my Raw Food for Dummies Facebook page. I'm Cherie Soria, helping you make healthy living easy and delicious.